Portal is one of those mythic games that everyone says you have to play. Up until now, I never got around to playing Portal. Despite knowing nothing about it, the game had always intrigued me because of what I've heard and people saying that the story and themes are really good. It has a very sanitized laboratory setting with an unreliable narrator in the form of Glados that sets up the player's expectations and then destroys those expectations as more of the story is revealed. The setting very much reminded me of the Cube series of movies, where the people in the Cube movies had to solve environmental puzzles in order to escape. Portal puts the player in environmental puzzles as well, with the tools to solve them being a portal gun and their brain.
Spell red.
Red? L-S-T-E-R.
Puzzle games are an intimidating genre to play because there's always that fear of not knowing what to do next and then getting stuck only to never pick the game up again. Or God forbid someone looks up a walkthrough, robbing themselves of the satisfaction of figuring out the puzzle on their own. Or so I'm told from the Reddit threads.
You cheated not only the game, but yourself. You didn't grow, you didn't improve, you took a shortcut and gained nothing. You experienced a hollow victory.
In the same vein as Limbo and Inside, Portal allows the player to experiment just enough to not become stuck, but still manages to get the player to find the correct solution to the puzzles. Unless of course you're a speedrunner and can just skip all of the puzzles.
Proven to be completely safe. The device, however, has not. Do not touch the operational end of the device. Well,
the game starts off very simply since the player doesn't have access to the portal gun yet. There's pre-placed portals that are used to get the player to start understanding how portals work. Lots of teaching the player how to move crates and press buttons to move to the next areas, all while being narrated by Glados, a robot who tells the player the purpose of Aperture Labs tests. After doing a few tests, the player is given access to the blue half of the portal gun. Once the blue half of the portal gun is picked up, the player can shoot blue portals wherever they want to interact with the pre-placed orange portals in order to solve puzzles. The reward for completing a puzzle other than your own satisfaction is getting more narration from Glados. She is definitely one of the funniest video game characters I've come across because of her dry, unaware humor, with such classic lines as,
well done. Remember, the Aperture Science Bring Your Daughter to Work Day is the perfect time to have her tested.
and
Please know that we have added a consequence for failure. Any contact with the chamber floor will result in an unsatisfactory mark on your official testing record, followed by death. Good luck.
As the player progresses through the game, they learn more about the world primarily through this narration. The soundtrack really adds to the atmosphere of the game and kinda reminds me of Breath of the Wild's soundtrack in the sense that it subtly enhances what's happening in the game. Even though more of the world is revealed, there's never enough information to be fully satisfied. If anything, the more the player learns, the more they want to keep playing because of how much they will question their situation. Glados will always make the player feel good because of the nice things she'll say when completing a puzzle.
Once again, excellent work.
Even though the protagonist is a character named Shell, it's easy to see yourself as the protagonist because Glados is talking to Shell and therefore you. One of the best moments for me was when I completed a puzzle despite being placed in, quote, an atmosphere of extreme pessimism, after being told throughout the puzzle that it was impossible. It was equally hilarious and complimentary.
The Enrichment Center regrets to inform you that this next test is impossible. Make no attempt to solve it. Once again, the Enrichment Center offers its most sincere apologies on the occasion of this unsolvable test environment. Frankly, this chamber was a mistake. If we were you, we would quit now. Fantastic. You remained resolute and resourceful in an atmosphere of extreme pessimism.
The puzzles start to get more and more complex as the game teaches the player about the electrical orbs, momentum, and timing-based puzzles. Players just feel smarter and smarter as they walk into a room that's super overwhelming at first, but after dissecting it for a few minutes, a plan starts to form. That's the beauty of Portal. Because the rules about portals are very clear, there's no gray area, and what the player does always makes sense. Sure, they might mess up and die a few times from experimentation, but that experimentation helps them learn about the rules of the game. The story takes a beautiful turn after the player is given the companion cube. Clearly, players would become attached to this cube since it's the only thing that accompanies them between multiple puzzles. People seem to become oddly attached to cute or strange things that seem to be indifferent to the complex world around them. What's more indifferent than a lifeless cube? This attachment to the cube grows as the player brings it with them for a few levels. Glados makes the player question whether or not the companion cube is alive because she says,
The Enrichment Center reminds you that the weighted companion cube cannot speak. In the event that the weighted companion cube does speak, the Enrichment Center urges you to disregard its advice.
Why would she say that the cube isn't alive, but then also say that if the cube does speak, to ignore it? It's questions like these that drive the story forward since the player is questioning what's really going on. That last example is when the player starts to question the intentions of Glados, only to be proved right when Glados tells you to dump the companion cube into a pit of fire.
You did it. The weighted companion cube certainly brought you good luck. However, it cannot accompany you for the rest of the test and, unfortunately, must be euthanized. Please escort your companion cube to the Aperture Science Emergency Intelligence Incinerator.
At this point, all trust the player has built towards Glados has been shattered, and now they just want to figure out where they are and why they're there. It almost transcends the feeling of a video game and pushes the story into feeling personal. Fast forward a bit, and Glados ends up trying to dump you into a pit of fire. The story then takes the player from curiosity to a case of personal revenge against Glados. Eventually, the player goes the wrong way according to Glados, who they now have no trust in. She tries luring the player back on track by saying that there's cake for them if they come back. Obviously not trusting this, players push on until they eventually come face to face with Glados herself.
Well, you found me. Congratulations. Was it worth it?
The ensuing boss fight consists of destroying 3 of her heads after shooting her with missiles. While this is all going on, she's roasting the player and saying how incompetent they are.
I invited your best friend, the companion cube. Of course, he couldn't come because you murdered him. All your other friends couldn't come either because you don't have any other friends because of how unlikable you are.
Portal retains its tongue-in-cheek humor while balancing a tale of revenge, which is quite impressive. Once the player defeats Glados, they are treated to one of the best video game songs I've ever heard, and it basically sums up the story of Portal you just played. I went into Portal almost blindly and was not disappointed with my experience at all. It's definitely up there with the greatest puzzle games of all time for me, along with Limbo, Inside, and Little Nightmares. Even though it only takes an afternoon to beat, it's well worth it alone for the story. I'll for sure be playing Portal 2, and who knows, that might even be my next video. Portal perfectly marries atmosphere, writing, and gameplay all into one and couldn't be accomplished as well on any other medium besides video games. Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what your favorite puzzle games are.
This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction.